So, one Burns night, you're a carefree lass, blithely toasting the laddies with a glass of Glenlivet. And the next thing you know, you're at home in your pajamas with a wee bairn, combing mashed potato out of your hair, and cursing the day you ever laid eyes on anything resembling a laddie. Nor did the fellow who toasted the lassies that night escape scot-free, if in fact anyone escapes from Burns night scot-free. I've heard that a suburban nightmare of sleepless nights and ruined Brooks Brothers shirts are in his future too. So let that be a warning to you all. Too much appreciation for the lads or the lassies can get you into trouble, especially if you express that appreciation on Burns night. And this is the horror that awaits you. But I jest. Though babbies are descending upon Murray Hall like a plague of locusts, contaminating your mailboxes with their dirty nappies, and your Facebook feeds with their toothless grins, gumming your dissertation chapters to sopping, unreadable pulp, and smearing their reproductive futurism all over your death drives, they really aren't so very bad. For one thing, I'm not really missing Burns night because I have to take care of this babby. I mixed up the dates and made plans to go drinking somewhere else tonight. So even if you have a babby, you can still have a good time now and then. Also, babbies have some excellent qualities. Here are some qualities that my own babby has, which are probably shared by many other adorable babbies. Babbies can be Scottish. I don't have a tartan for this babby. Well, I actually have some plaid pants which she peed on and we had to take off. But I do have this adorable tam, which would be harder to pee on, and which demonstrates that on her father's side she is descended from at least 2 strains of Highlanders who were forced to emigrate because they were too argumentative and too hot-tempered for Scotland. For some reason they were precisely argumentative and hot-tempered enough for Canada, which is weird, but is another story. Babbies can be good at public speaking. Little Jane here is crushed that she has to spend tonight at home with her dad. Yeah, isn't she obviously crushed? Watching Star Trek and practicing her backwards crawling because her favorite thing in the world is to be part of a big circle of people all talking very loudly and shouting things at each other so she can stand on my lap and join in. If she were really there with you and looking at all of your delightful faces, she'd be delivering the toast to the babbies herself, except it would sound like wouldn't you, Jane? Do you want to try giving a little toast right now? I mean, definitely one problem with babbies. They're pretty unpredictable. But also, babbies can be quite literary. I read Little Jane to a mouse this morning and she really liked it. And she's pretty hard to please, so that shows how powerful her critical sense is. And finally, although some of us who spend our days walking around the living room trying to dictate our dissertations using that voice recognition program on our smartphones, while the babby hangs like a particularly tuneless bagpipe from our bosom might disagree, babbies don't necessarily get in the way of a life in letters. Just ask Robert Burns, who begat a grand total of 12 babbies on 4 different women and still managed to write the hundreds of poems and songs we celebrate tonight. Granted, cranking out all those poems might have left him with precious little creativity for coming up with babby names. The George Foreman of his time, Burns ended up with 2 sons named Robert and 3 daughters named Elizabeth. But those boringly named babbies were themselves incredibly energetic babby makers. Burns's genetic legacy rivals his literary one, since today he has over 600 living direct descendants. Wow. So if you're upset about overpopulation, don't blame me. Blame Burns. And if you need some literary inspiration, consider getting a babby or 12 of your own. And finally, please join me and Jane in an affectionate toast to babbies! To the babbies! Have a great Burns night, everyone.